Welcome back to Reddit Echoes, where we dive into real stories from the Reddit community. Stories where love, betrayal, and the coldest of choices are told with raw voices. Real pain. And sometimes twists so unbelievable, they'll leave you speechless. Today you're going to hear a story that may sound simple at first, just a couple out shopping. A regular afternoon. At a typical mall. But it's that very sense of normalcy that reveals everything. Because it's only when danger comes close that you find out who runs toward you, and who runs to save themselves. Have you ever asked yourself if a stranger appeared and pulled a knife right in front of you? What would the person you love, trust, and walk beside every day actually do? This is the story of a young woman who truly believed she had found a good man, until he left her in the moment she needed him the most. Let's listen. Story 1. She left me for an alpha male and wanted to come back when it all fell apart. I'm not great at starting stories with, I was the perfect husband and she was the devil. But to be completely honest, after everything that's happened, I can't think of a better way to describe the woman who used to be my wife, the same woman who once held my hand at the altar and promised me forever. My name is Mark. I'm 35, a software engineer, and I live a pretty simple, no-drama life. Or at least I thought I did. My wife, Julia, was the woman I loved for 7 years. We met in college, got married after graduation, and had been together for over a decade. We have a 6-year-old son, the sweetest, kindest little boy you could imagine. I used to think we were a great team. Julia worked as an accountant. I was an engineer. Both had stable careers, shared the housework, co-parented our son. I'm not the romantic or flashy type, but I was always home on time. Cooked dinner, cleaned, played with our kid every night. I thought that was enough. Turns out I was wrong. The warning signs I ignored. It all started to change about a year ago when Julia got close with a new group of friends at her gym. She used to just work out casually, but suddenly she was obsessed with fitness. She started talking about things like masculine energy and divine femininity. I supported her self-improvement, I really did. But she began comparing me to her trainer, a guy named Troy. Troy was the kind of man you'd see on TikTok spouting nonsense like women shouldn't earn money, they should be protected. One day Julia came home and hit me with this, "Do you think you're truly in touch with your masculine energy?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" She looked at me and said, "I mean, do you ever feel like you're too soft? I need someone who leads. Someone with a voice, not just a great floor cleaner." Ouch. Apparently I had been demoted to the janitor of my own home. The first explosion I need. Space to find myself. 3 months later. Julia asked for a separation. She said she needed space to rediscover herself and that we had become roommates instead of spouses. I asked her if there was someone else. She denied it. It hurt, but I let her go. I told myself, if this is what she needs to find herself again, I'll wait. Stupid me. Not even 2 weeks later, a mutual friend sent me a TikTok video, Julia sitting on Troy, the alpha male's lap at some gender energy retreat. I was shaking. Still, I stayed quiet. I messaged her, I know. "You don't need to lie anymore." She replied, "You deserve someone stronger than me. I'm sorry." From husband to punching bag. My family, especially my mom and sister, were furious. But what hurt more was that Julia's family blamed me. "You must have made her feel lonely." She needed a real man, not someone who scrubs the stove and listens to nagging. I used to think her family liked me. Turns out now I was just the guy who wasn't man enough to keep her. So I focused on my son. I got temporary custody while we awaited the official divorce. Julia had moved across the country to live with Troy. My boy missed his mom. I never blocked her calls. But every time I saw his sad little eyes, my heart shattered all over again. The dramatic return. 6 months later, on our son's birthday, Julia called. Her voice was hoarse. "I want to talk. In person." I agreed. We met at a cafe near our old house. She looked thin, pale, with dull hair and barely any makeup. I braced for anything, but I wasn't ready for what she said. "Do I still have a chance to be forgiven?" I froze. She continued. "Troy wasn't who I thought he was. I lost my job when I moved to be with him. He wouldn't let me keep my phone for more than 10 minutes at a time. He banned me from seeing old friends. And when I mentioned talking to you about our son, he made me choose him or my child. I chose our son, so he kicked me out. I'm sorry, Mark. I was wrong. Between forgiveness and self-respect, I'm not a cruel person. I believe people can make mistakes. But what I lost wasn't just a wife, it was trust. I asked her, when you left, did you even think about our son? He cried every night. He asked why mommy doesn't cuddle him anymore. She lowered her head. I went on, I forgive you, but I'm not taking you back. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut like a knife. Julia cried, but I didn't wipe her tears this time. I stood up and placed an envelope on the table. Inside a photo of our son, and his latest drawing, my new family. Just the two of us, dad and son. You should keep this, so you never forget what you walked away from. No reconciliation, just growth. She left without a word, and I didn't look back. I walked away not with hate, but with freedom. I once loved a woman so blindly it hurt. I once hoped she would change. But some wounds, when repeated, stop being mistakes. They become choices. And if someone chooses to betray you once, they'll do it again if you give them the chance. I'm no longer Julia's ex-husband. I'm Mark, a father, a man who knows he deserves someone honest. Outro for anyone who's ever been betrayed. If you're listening to this and thinking I've been left, I've been blamed when I wasn't wrong, you're not alone. Don't let anyone tell you that silence is noble, that forgiveness is mandatory. Forgiveness is a choice. But getting back together, that's not required. And if someone leaves you for a tank top wearing alpha male preaching nonsense on TikTok, let them stay in that world. You don't need to be more masculine. You just need to remember you are no one's backup plan. Story 2. She kept repeating 2 words in her sleep, and my life fell apart. Have you ever thought that just 2 meaningless words could destroy a relationship that lasted years? I hadn't. Not until the night my ex-girlfriend now murmured in her sleep. Hoobie, doobie. Sounds funny, right? I laughed too. But then, like a tiny thorn lodged in your throat, curiosity turned to suspicion, and suspicion into a gut-wrenching truth I wish I never uncovered. A peaceful love. Or so I thought. Claire and I had been together for nearly 3 years. She worked as a freelance graphic designer, and I was a mechanical engineer. We met through mutual friends, started off hanging out in groups, and before I knew it, I was smitten. She wasn't your typical Instagram hot girl, but she had this calm look in her eyes, a genuine smile, and a wit so sharp it made you laugh at how spot-on her takes were about life. We clicked in weird, perfect ways, from indie music, Korean food, to our shared hatred for the Fast and Furious franchise. I genuinely thought, if I ever get married, it'll be to this girl. The night it all changed. 2 haunting words. It was a chill Saturday night. We'd just finished a documentary on Netflix. Claire had her head on my chest, half asleep. I was drifting off too. When I heard her mumble, "Hoobie, doobie," again, I froze. What I chuckled, thinking she was just dreaming something weird. But then it happened again, and again. Every night for the next few nights, like a damn broken record. Hoobie doobie. Slower this time. You can't imagine how weird it feels. Like some secret language is being whispered in your own bed and you're the outsider. Enter the overthinking detective. I asked her, trying to play it casual. "Hey babe, do you know what hoobie doobie means?" Claire looked at me like I was the crazy one. What are you even talking about?" I shrugged. You've been muttering it in your sleep." She laughed. "You must have dreamed it." I don't talk in my sleep, but I knew what I heard. Every word. So I did what any paranoid boyfriend in 2024 would do. I Googled it. Nothing. Just silly kids' cartoons and random junk. Then I turned to Reddit and Urban Dictionary. Boom. A thread titled, "My girlfriend moans hooby-dooby in her sleep." Found out it was her ex's sex nickname. My blood went cold. Code words and crushing truths. I started paying closer attention, especially after she'd hang out with an old friend named Mason. I casually asked one day, "How long have you known Mason O. College?" We weren't that close, though. Why, I just smiled. But inside, alarms were screaming. Then I did something I'm not proud of, something the ideal version of me would look down on. I checked her phone. Yep, I invaded her privacy. But what I found, a Telegram conversation with a contact saved as M latest message, "I still remember your hooby-dooby." I felt like throwing up acid. Claire's reply, "Ha ha, stop it." I accidentally mumbled it in my sleep the other night. Good thing my BF has no idea. The showdown, I printed the screenshots, waited for her to come home, put the paper on the table and just sat there. She walked in, saw me, then the paper, and froze. Care to explain? She trembled, then sighed and said something I'll never forget. "Mark. I'm sorry. Mason's an old friend, yes, but there's still something there. I don't know why, but he makes me feel more like me. And what am I, Netflix docs and Korean takeout?" She didn't respond, just cried. I walked away. Not because I'm weak, but because I finally woke up. I didn't yell. I didn't break things. I just stood up and said I can forgive someone who stumbles, but not someone who dives headfirst into the mud with their eyes wide open. Good luck with your hooby-dooby. And I walked out. Felt light and hollow. Outro. A harsh lesson from 2 dumb words. I lost someone I loved, but found a version of myself I didn't know existed. I used to believe love was about innocence, about trust holding everything together. But no, honesty and self-respect are what keep you standing when everything else falls apart. And if you've ever heard someone say, "I don't know why I did that," trust me, they know. People always know. They just hope you're too blind to see it. Thanks for listening to my story. Story 3. She said she was pregnant, then laughed like it was a joke. I've never felt so small in my life, and the worst part, it came from the person I loved. She thought pregnancy was a joke, thought lying about carrying a child, a life I once imagined cradling in my arms, was funny. And then, she laughed. Like I was the punchline in a sick comedy about my own life. We were the perfect couple. Online Lexi and I met on Tinder, yeah, a modern-day Gen Z love story. But ours felt different. We talked every single day for hours, sent memes, childhood stories opened up about fears we never told anyone else. Lexi had that kind of smile that made you forget about looming deadlines, and eyes that made you feel like she truly saw you, not just through the screen, but to your core. Meeting her in person, even better. We synced on music, movies, even our weird habit of eating instant noodles at 2 a.m. One time I got sick. She made porridge, washed my hair. I remember thinking, this woman could be the mother of my child. Then everything started to change. Around the 10-month mark, Lexi became distant. Her hugs lost warmth. Her texts got shorter, colder. I asked her about it. She just said, "I'm tired. Don't overthink." And like the blind idiot in love that I was, I believed her. I told myself, don't smother her. Be her support, not her cage. But then came that night. "Babe, I need to tell you something." Lexi texted me to come over, said she needed to talk. Her tone sounded tense. My heart sank. A million thoughts rushed in. Was she sick? Family emergency? I got to her place and saw her sitting on the sofa under dim yellow lights, eyes red like she'd been crying. I rushed over. "What's going on?" She took a deep breath and dropped the bomb. I think I'm pregnant. Time. Stopped. I stared at her. "Are you serious?" She nodded slowly, eyes misty. I was in shock, but weirdly deep down, a strange mix of fear and joy started bubbling up. I didn't hate the idea of being a father. If it was with Lexi, I'd make it work. I hugged her tight. "No matter what happens, I'm here." And then she burst out laughing. Not a giggle, not a tearful laugh, no full-blown cackling, like she just pulled off the world's best prank. Oh my God, you should have seen your face. "Ha ha, I'm just kidding." I froze. A cruel joke, or a knife, straight to the heart. I couldn't speak for 10 seconds. I genuinely thought I was in a nightmare. But Lexi was still laughing like she'd just gone viral on TikTok for pranking my boyfriend with fake pregnancy. "You lied about being pregnant." As a joke, she rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic." I was just testing your reaction. Girls do that all the time. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I stood up, hands shaking. "That's not a joke, Lexi. You just used my feelings, my love, as a weapon." "Oh, please, you're overreacting. What kind of man gets so emotional over a little prank?" I didn't say another word. Just grabbed my coat and walked out without looking back. She didn't even stop there. I thought that was the end of it. Nope. The next day, she posted a story on Instagram, pretending you're pregnant just to see their face, Oscar-worthy acting, LOL. She even tagged me. I texted her, "Please take it down." She left me on scene. Soon friends started messaging me. "Dude, are you guys in a skit or something?" I had to fake a laugh. "Haha, Lexi just messing around." But inside I was shattered. I saw a therapist and finally saw the truth. I started losing sleep. I'd cry thinking about the look on her face, not because she was pregnant, but because she knew I would take it seriously. She knew I'd love deeply, that I'd sacrifice everything. My therapist told me something that chilled me to the bone. Lexi wasn't joking. She was testing power. That's not playfulness, that's manipulation. And I realized all along I was the giver, and she was just testing. Testing my limits. Testing my patience, testing love like it was some emotional toy. I ended it with one final message. I texted her, "The best jokes are when no one laughs, and in that sense, you nailed it." Then I blocked her, unfollowed everything, cleared out every trace of her from my place, and swore never again would I love someone who treats my feelings like entertainment. Outro: a message to anyone who's loved. Someone who didn't love them back. If you've ever been in a relationship where love was used to test your reactions, to pull your strings, to measure your loyalty, you're not alone. I used to think if she's in pain, I'll hold her. If she laughs, I'll laugh too. If she's pregnant, I'll raise that child with all my heart. What I forgot was that she never truly intended to treat my emotions with care. And sometimes loving the wrong person isn't as painful as offering your kindness to someone who never valued it in the first place. Story 4. When the mugger appeared, he ran and left me behind. I never thought something straight out of an action movie would happen to me being mugged in broad daylight in a public place. But what haunts me to this day isn't the mugger himself. It's the person who ran first, my boyfriend. And you know what stings the most? I thought he would protect me. Instead, he ran like I was nothing more than a backpack he forgot. A relationship that seemed normal. I met Brandon during a post-pandemic soft skills workshop. He was pretty good-looking, tall, curly hair, always in a hoodie and white sneakers, the type that gives off friendly guy energy. At first, I was drawn to how kind he was. Brandon never let me carry heavy stuff, always opened car doors for me, and constantly asked, "Are you okay?" after our long training sessions. We dated for about 8 months, and I honestly thought I can trust this guy. I feel safe around him. Oh, what a mistake. The day everything changed. That afternoon, we had a date at an outdoor shopping center. The weather was nice. Soft music floated out from a nearby cafe, and the weekend crowd buzzed around us like usual. I was standing outside an H&M store holding shopping bags when Brandon turned and said, "Wait here for just a minute, I'm grabbing something for you inside." I smiled, standing there, even thinking, "Aw, how romantic." But not even 30 seconds later, a man rushed up to me. Before I could register anything, he pulled out a knife and whispered, "Hand me the bag. Now." My whole body froze. My feet felt glued to the ground. I looked up about to scream just as Brandon walked out of the store. His eyes went wide. I thought he'd yell or rush over to help me, but no. Brandon turned and ran. I'm not exaggerating. He stood there for less than a second, then turned and bolted. Straight up ran. No looking back. No words. Just gone. Not like ran to get security. Not like backing up to call 911. He ran like I was a total stranger. Even the mugger looked surprised, but quickly snatched my bag and ran in another direction. I dropped to the ground. My heart was pounding out of my chest. People only started to notice when I broke into sobs. A woman stopped and asked, "Are you okay?" I didn't know what to say. I could only choke out, "He left me." "I'm sorry," I just panicked. Brandon called me 2 hours later. I ignored the first calls. When I finally checked my phone, there were 11 missed calls and 8 texts. You'd think the texts would say something like, "Are you hurt?" or "Are you okay?" Nope. All I saw were, "I'm sorry." I was so scared I didn't know what was happening. I thought you'd run too. I called him back because honestly, I needed to hear his excuse in person. He picked up and immediately said I seriously panicked. My heart was racing. I just thought, I had to get out of there. I was quiet. Then I asked, "And what about me? Didn't I matter enough for you to think of me first?" He stammered, "I'm sorry. It was just survival instinct." I cut him off, Brandon. I don't need a perfect man. I need someone who won't abandon me when I'm in danger. Everything after just made me feel worse. The next day, one of Brandon's friends messaged me, "He's traumatized. Don't be too hard on him." And that's when I realized something was off. Brandon was traumatized. I was the one who had a knife to her chest, who lost everything in her bag, who was left alone crying in the middle of a crowd, and I'm the one who's supposed to understand his feelings. A few days later, Brandon messaged me again. "I still want to be with you. I'll protect you from now on." I took a screenshot of that message and didn't reply. I decided to share my story. I posted the whole thing on Reddit not to expose him, but because I needed outside perspectives. The responses running is instinct, sure, but not checking on you afterward. That's just selfish. I'm a guy and I'm ashamed on Brandon's behalf. Real men don't leave their partner behind like that. My boyfriend once stood in front of me when a rabid dog charged at us. I'll never forget that. That last one made me cry. I learned a huge lesson. Not everyone who says they love you will protect you. Not everyone holding your hand in public will hold it when the storm hits. Brandon was a great guy when there was no pressure, no threat, no knife held to the woman he supposedly loved. But I don't want someone who's only good when things are easy. I want someone brave when I'm at my most vulnerable. And Brandon isn't that person. You'll never really know how much someone loves you until chaos hits. Brandon isn't a bad man. But in the moment that mattered most, he chose himself. I don't blame him for being scared. I blame him for never looking back, for not calling me immediately, for not caring if I made it out alive. And if you're in a relationship where you're always the strong one, always the one shielding others, always the one protecting yourself, then maybe you're loving the wrong person. Today's story isn't just about a robbery. It's a mirror one that reflects the kind of love many of us are truly in. Not everyone who hugs you every night will stand beside you when the winds start to howl. Not everyone who holds your hand in a crowd will shield you when danger comes charging. And not everyone who says I love you can hold on to those words, when life and death are just one knife's edge apart. Brandon wasn't a bad guy, but Brandon wasn't brave enough to love someone fully. And in the darkest moments, courage doesn't come from muscle. It comes from the heart, from instinct, from the choice to stay not for yourself, but for the person you love. So if you're in a relationship and deep down you're not sure they'll stay when everything falls apart, remember this: love isn't just about holding hands in the sunshine. Real love is who still holds your hand when the storm hits. Thank you for listening to today's story on Reddit Echoes. And if you've ever lived through a moment like this, where the person you trusted most shattered you, share it. Because here we listen, we understand, and you're not alone. See you in the next story. And remember, sometimes the truth cuts deeper than the knife ever could.